Welcome to Beyond the Plinth, where we talk everything biokinetics, health and wellness orientated topics. My name's Steve Saunders. I'm your host today. And with me as always is...
Natasha Deley. I'm the current Vice President of the Biokinetics Association of South Africa.
And today's special topic is on kids, and we have our special invitee.
Hi, my name is Annick Snyman. I'm a new biokineticist in the field, working for Crossing Biokineticist in Bryanston, and I have a special interest in working with children.
Brilliant. So, Tasha, we're discussing this special population, kids, and I've got a kid. And I've dealt with bios, and I haven't really had to connect the two, although it makes a huge amount of sense to do it, because I'm a huge believer in exercise. I'm a huge believer in helping the kids develop movements, those neural pathways, the strength and conditioning, range of motion, flexibility, stability, all of those factors. And it's just never occurred to me to connect my son into the world of biokinetics for his ability to develop. So a hugely interesting topic for me today. But firstly, from your point of view, explain what makes kids a special population group for biokinetics.
Okay, so we get asked this question quite a bit, and it could probably be broken down into a number of aspects. Children being in the special populations, number one, you can have an orthopedic injury as a child. You can have an NCD issue as a child. You can have neurological issues as a child. You can have cardiac. You can have lungs. So you fall into a number of categories within the specialization of biokinetics. And therefore, to isolate it as a pediatric issue, we decided to put it into a special populations like pregnancy. So as a pregnant person, you'd have all these other issues as well, but you become special because you're not just everyone else.
Absolutely.
You have a few conditions grouped together, but you're not everybody else. So I have the pleasure of working with a number of children in my practice as well. So it's challenging and it's exciting, but it also you're expected to think outside the box in this particular aspect of special populations. I'm sure you have more that you can talk about within your guys' practice.
Yeah, definitely. Also, that makes them special is the special considerations that you need to take in account when working with children. I mean, just like your evaluation approach is very different.
Yes.
The way you plan and structure your training program, it's more of a play-like environment compared to a formal structure of exercise. The motivation, the way you are with a child is much different compared to older adults.
So I'm going to take a step back from there and go into a bit of your background, your history. You've been at Northwest University and you've dealt with programs with kids already. You've had a fair amount of experience. Give us a rundown of that experience that you've had.
So I just had a background in kinetics with Biokinetics. So we went to a lot of...
You had a background in what?
In kinetics.
Kinetics. Okay, what's kinetics?
So that's a profession that specializes in the population from the ages of 0 to 13, and their focus is more on the neuromotor development of children. Okay. So they use physical activity.
Explain to layman Steve, what is they?
Kineticists.
Yeah.
It's also a degree that you can do at Poch.
Oh, wow.
And you then uses physical activity to help children develop their gross motor skills.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's not a degree that's offered in all the universities. It's very specific to Poch, and you can do it as an extra. So you can still qualify as a biokinetics with a subcategory of doing kinetics as well.
And Annick, that's where you've come through.
Yes, I was part of the new 4-year degree program in biokinetics. So it was just like a few of our subjects, and we did a few practical hours with the Kineticist honors students.
Brilliant.
Yes.
So it's brought that whole other aspect through to help you become that person with a bit of experience in dealing with a special population group. Yes. We say that in the best way possible. I say special. People call me special, but that's not a compliment generally. We're looking for special just because treatment interventions are going to be a little bit different and protocols are going to be a little bit different. And we mentioned that. So let's lead into that. The sort of the psychological approach you've mentioned already, how you socially engage with them, because you need to keep them interested in what you're doing. It can't be a absolutely clean, clinical, boring, follow the instruction type environment. How do you engage these kids?
Well, one thing is to familiarize them. It's great to involve the parent as well. That kind of put them at ease a bit more. And then to just make it fun, include a theme to your program. Use your imagination. Use something like space and hoops and colors and different equipment so that they can hop in like hula hoops and say it's different planets. Make it fun.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah.
And you make the parents do that as well?
No, they just watch.
Do the parents need to do this?
Well,
Probably,
yeah.
Okay, so in bringing this program forward then, your role with kids is really to figure out how within that special group, now Tash, you've already mentioned all these different interventions that may have been brought on from a clinical side, but there could be just general progression, development for the child as well. If you're going into that general progression, if, say, you're going to bring a program through for a school or something like that, would that be something that you would be heading up or helping to guide or helping to develop? Would that be a sphere you would bring forward?
Definitely. I think schools really should make use of biokinetics more. It's quite difficult getting into schools, and it's important for the teachers and the parents to buy into the need for biokinetics. I believe there's really a great need, especially with primary schools, where you already teach them the right techniques, and the correct lifestyle habits from a young age. We need to lay down that cornerstones.
Those foundations need to be solid.
Yes.
So my practice is actually in a school, and we do work with the primary school.
Brilliant.
So what we try to do is to steer away from putting children in little boxes and say you have to be able to do this by this time. You have to also understand, and the teachers need to understand, that everyone progresses at a different level. You progress maybe slower. There is a direct link in studies with people who have been a cesarean section baby versus someone who's been naturally born. Your development is a little bit different, and those things need to be taken into consideration, and teachers are not trained to do that. Us as biokineticists are, and that's what the information is meant to help them with.
Yes.
In terms of developing gross motor program skills. So in our area, we've developed the program, and they use that program in their PT session. So in their physical education session, they call it play therapy now. So it's doing things like crossing the midline, learning to balance, learning to stand on one leg, learning to do cross-body action movements. And all those structures enable the child to meet certain gross motor skill programs by the time they are at high school level, where they're now going to be engaging in hectic sports like rugby and cricket, and then it's too late.
As well.
Yeah, and then it's too late, So I do think, doing it at an early phase is much more beneficial.
So you've mentioned a whole lot of topics, which is going to open up another nest of conversations we're going to have down the line. I can see this happening. But my experience being a parent is that I've watched my son go through school, and I'm one of those parents that stands on the sideline and has to be told to shut up. Rightly so, because I am very noisy. But I see a lot of these developmental skills being ignored for the purpose of trying to get the whole group to do a basic sport. So they're trying to get the sport done, but they haven't learned to crawl. And the crawling action is so important to the development of the person later on. So my kid, 11 years old, getting towards the end of his primary school development, and I look at how little has been done around the neural feedback, the balance, the ability to cross line, coordination, flexibility. All of those skills are missing. And he's in a pretty well-recognized primary school in Johannesburg. So they're missing out. They've got a physical education team who come in and do physical education. But I don't think they're understanding what you guys are talking about now. So there's quite a sphere here within the schools to get this type of program in place, probably because it's the easiest place to access as many people as possible and be able to get the general principles across. But also maybe more educational support to the professionals in this market, and maybe that's the next question or topic we can talk about, which is the people dealing with kids generally in the market as professionals. How do the biokineticists engage with those different professionals in that market?
Sure, that's a hard one. I think also a lot of it boils down to financial. A lot of these schools are working on budgets. You want to engage, you want to give your school the best opportunity, but if the education comes before the physical stuff, that's what they're going to choose.
That's what they're going to do.
So unfortunately, and at the end of the day, you're paying for your child to have an education. And these things are a little bit of an added extra. But I believe that, especially from a government point of view, they've taken physical education out of school programs from a government point of view because teachers won't do an extra mural if they're not paid to do it. And I understand that, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of work. Us as the association in the country are trying to network to open up these kinds of spaces for people to have their own practices in, so you're not necessarily paying the bio to be there, but you're giving them an opportunity to be in a space where they can add value to your school.
Absolutely.
So it is, unfortunately, we can't ignore these little things like the finances and it is a reality of the situation. And in the country that we're in, I understand education is one of our biggest things. So that's where the money is going to go to.
Mm-hmm.
But, and this I'm going to throw in as a bit of controversy, if you don't get that physical development to occur, what is the effect on that child in terms of their school marks later on?
Yeah, so that's what we're trying to and in your practice, we will emphasize it. You've got to get, I think the buy-in of the parents have a lot more hold in general, which then can take it to the school. It is a direct relation, but people don't put it together. So it's our responsibility, as small as we are, to make sure that the education is there on all fronts, whether it's a parent or a caregiver or a granny or an aunt or a teacher or a principal of a school or a sports coach.
So that's where I'm leading to now is absolutely is how much you support and engage with different professionals in the market. So we discuss schools and school teachers and the limitation, but there's also then the additional sports that these kids go to. And are they doing the jobs at the best level they can? How much support could be brought in? Where does biokinetics fit into that environment, both as a profession, but also as an ability to affect an outcome for that special population group?
Yeah, I see with like other health professionals that I network with is like dietitians, especially with the younger children that or like going into high school where they want to start gymming, using supplements. That's also a big controversy about,
and
can they train with weights?
Yes, it's big pressure on them for that.
Yeah, can they use stuff? And from a nutritional view, we can't really give advice. It would be best to refer
to the dietitian.
Yeah.
I think also what we need to remember from a developmental point of view is that children develop their skills by the age of 8 and hone it between the ages of 9 and 13. So whatever they're learning, you've got to get it in before they turn 8 or 9. Otherwise, anything after that is talent-based. It's not a perceptual biomechanical, that type of thing. And I think that's where schools come in, and it's very important from that point of view. I think as a biokineticist, if I had a choice, and my passion is children, if I have to be completely honest, that is what I would want to do. Between the ages of 0 and 9 would be where I would want to be able to make an impactful effect in someone who's, it's going to change the rest of your life. It's going to change the way you see your body, how you understand your body, how you approach movement, help you choose what sport you want to do, how you, because you want to be able to try as much as you can.
Absolutely.
To see where you fit in as an individual now, speaking from a child, and then have a professional to guide you along the way to make you the best you can be in that particular area.
Yes, and we're not just talking about a basic physical activity specialist here. You guys have got that clinical background. You can help with anything where you can see things are going wrong. You can advise on that, and you're well networked to be able to refer if need be. So I think, Tash, this is a topic that's very big because we've literally scraped across the top of about 57. I feel like I could talk
here for another hour.
Yes. So there's about 57 topics, and I think we're going to end up going into a whole deep series here. Annick, it's been brilliant to chat to you. It's just an introduction around this topic, but I think you're going to be in here a couple more times. And Tash, I think we're going to line up a couple of these speciality areas of intervention and start to talk about them as opportunities.
I like that idea.
Yeah, good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been brilliant. So last bit, any advice you can give to biokineticists, particularly those at university who are listening to this podcast, about what they should be doing, where they should be going in the field of biokinetics?
Wow, that's a difficult one.
That was blindside as well. She wasn't prepared for that one.
I wasn't prepared for that one. And it really depends on your personality. Like, I love children and I'm like on the two wider spectrums, like older adults and children. So, and at the end, they're pretty much the same.
I was just about to say, I think that's the
same thing. I do think there's a market for going into schools, emphasizing physical activity among children, especially with the increase in screen time lately, and how to keep them active and cultivate a love for physical activity for them. And yeah, I think go for that.
Brilliant. So Annick, Tash, thank you very much for your time. It's been brilliant, and we're definitely going to dive into this way more. We'll see you guys next time. Any questions, any queries, as usual, put them down in the comments.